Because sustainability is not just about environment. Sustainability means you need to create a balance in your social, environmental and financial sustainability. So if you be sustainable, if you be green, if you be ethical, if you pay your staff well, if you treat your staff better, it's actually end of the day, you will end up earning more money.
Yes.
You'll be end up being more happier as an entrepreneur, happier as a human being, fulfilling, and you will be more successful. So we are talking about tourism, but with the food industry in Sri Lanka, I think there's a huge opportunity. I think there is a huge opportunity to create a, let's say, franchise-based Sri Lankan food restaurants all around Sri Lanka, to bring it globally. I think if somebody is very innovative and creative in listening to this podcast, believe me, this would be the golden opportunity to create something out of Sri Lankan food. Rice and curry, our food, especially we use lots of coconut milk. That's our identity.
Yes.
And a foreigner would come to Sri Lanka, traveler would come. That would be probably the once in lifetime opportunity. So that person would never eaten proper rice and curry.
Yes.
So we are in the experience-based tourism, right?
Yes.
Give them a rice and curry, and they'll get wowed. It would be very easy to be a vegetarian or a vegan in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Because if you look at most of the diet is like that, it's rich, super rich food. It's an experience itself, right? The food that we have. So I think we should be even more prouder, and I'm also amazed at why our food is not global anymore.
Oh, this is a big topic I always talk about.
Presenting a Sri Lankan meal to a guest is presenting our culture and heritage, presenting our part of our life, and that we should be proud of. And we were talking about this whole being authentic, right? For me, Sri Lankan food is a very authentic and a fulfilling meal. In sort of a Western world, you have this whole idea of you have your NutriBullet, and then you put some greens, and then creates this amazing drink. Smoothies. But that's kolakanda, right?
Exactly. With red rice.
Yes, that is 20 times, 100 times more nutritious and tastier.
Gluten-free. Yes. If you talk only about Sri Lankan food, we can throw in a variety from Jaffna, from Kendi, from down south, from Malay food in Sri Lanka, from Muslim cuisine in Sri Lanka, and so on, you know.
The amount of culinary tourism that we can attract to Sri Lanka, the sustainable tourism, we could be one of the global leaders of sustainable tourism.
We are not looking at the opportunities within the opportunity. I am starting a coffee blends of my own, let's say a small tuk-tuk cart. But I am asking my friend, can you grate the coconuts for me? Because I don't have time for that. Can you make the cashew milk for me? Because I don't have time. So you make it at home. It's your business now. And you give it to me. The more I grow, he gets more business. So... Hi, Aravinda. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. How are you?
I'm doing really good. And thanks for inviting me for this.
My pleasure, man. Cool.
Yes.
So, Aravinda, I've been following you since a while, and I see your work and your how you're voicing about sustainability, specifically sustainable tourism in Sri Lanka. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and your work, please?
Yeah, so I am what you call a jack of all trades. So I kind of started my tourism career. So I was taking some pictures. I had a DSL camera, taking some pictures for street dogs, and then I had like so many pictures for street dogs, and then I was like, what the hell? What am I going to do with these pictures? And then I was like, in Facebook, I found this charity called Dog Star Foundation. And then I just write to them and said, I have so many street dog pictures. Do you want to use one of my pictures.
Mm.
And then they contacted me. So that led into tourism. So basically, I started from domestic elephant animal conservation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was 2010 when the war was ending. And then the tourism boom was starting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was kind of based in Pinnavalla area.
Mm.
And then the boom was started. It was more mass tourism. And it was like more coaches going from A to B type of tourism that we had. And then I was exposed to domestic elephants. And then there were lots of places that was doing domestic elephant riding, which is very bad for the elephants.
Yes.
Because elephants breathe from muscle contraction. And then you put 10 people and put a big harness, which is basically slowly killing them. So then I went into, with some a lady called Alison, we were started Sri Lanka's first. I got beaten up trying to do that. Place that we call it Inspire Elephant Haven, where you could actually see elephants without
riding
them.
Yeah.
That was there, and then that led into wildlife, human elephant mitigation. That was a big problem because what happened was after 2010, lots of lands, especially in the sort of where the war-torn area, were not accessible for people. Right? So there were agriculture, but not that widespread. And then when the war ended, lots of agricultural lands got opened up. That was more there for where elephant populations were living. When with the tourism coming in, like you're putting another 1 million consumers into the country. That also mean the huge expanding of the supply chain.
Yes.
And then the human-elephant conflict was becoming a big problem. And then I was joined a Wildlife Conservation Society, and then we were trying to, sorry about my dog, to go into on how do we mitigate human-elephant conflict. We were the first people to fence. I mean, Ravi Kuria was the guy who was initiated it to fence villages instead of fencing animals. We were monitoring an elephant, which actually had a deformity, one of his front legs were from birth was shorter.
Okay.
And then that time that was hardcore. One of my friends was like a hardcore tree hugger type of a guy, volunteering in the Waskabo National Park, and I was in a tree hut. And then what I saw, there were few jeeps, local jeeps, somebody for very wealthy people. So there were, and then at the time, the elephant was very close to the human population, and the villagers were also very tolerant to this elephant because they knew that this is a deformed elephant who couldn't do anything, and he was living very close to the lake. And that period, most of the elephants around that area was having mast, or they were much more aggressive sort of form. And this elephant was close to the village, and these guys were from these big jeeps, Land Cruisers, came and then start taking pictures of this elephant. And they were like very kind of like harassing, try to cross and take this, like all this social media influencing and everything was coming up. And this poor elephant was trying to go towards the lake to safety because he knew that if he goes towards the jungle, other bigger male elephants will push him away. And then that actually realized me that I worked in sort of a grassroots level in Sri. And then I realized everything that we do to protect these animals, to create a sort of a symbiosis with the villagers and the wildlife. We were organizing Aurdu Sava, where elephants are gathering to like create some sort of synergy. And then I realized that wait a minute, everything I've done for past 2-3 years, this all just went worse because these people, I'm not gonna say rich people, but I don't know if they're rich or not, coming and destroying that whole balance. And then I realized I should work on top to bottom conservation rather than doing bottom to top conservation. And that led me to tourism. And ever since, that was 2014, and then I went back to university to study tourism. 2014, what I'm doing is to try to create a unique project, try to help people in a unique situations to create sustainable and kind of a synergizing projects or to develop businesses. So then we could change that sort of a ethos, and also to show that being ethical, being sustainable is not a compromise, but a path to be even more successful.
Yeah, and a must.
Must.
So Aravinda, what you said about, I don't know if those people were rich or not. I would like to add something there. They're trying to get rich. In Sri Lanka, wealth is associated with um, the maximum box-looking house with a lawn in front.
Yes.
You know, the good old fruit trees, the useful trees, environmentally friendly, good natural resources are all gone now. We are associating wealth and success with I don't want to call it a Western style lifestyle, but that's what's happening, you know. So this is very sad. And sustainability, as I see, is not taught properly to our children, you know. So I want to emphasize now with you, since you have hands-on experience here, about how we can, let's, like you said, go from the ground level. Let's talk to our brothers and sisters who are trying to come into tourism, trying to do something with a little bit of budget they have. But how can we motivate them to do the business without destroying the nature, please?
I think one aspect, that's what I was using the words creating a synergy, right? One sort of a narrative that we have, being green, being ethical, because sustainability is not just about environment. Sustainability means you need to create a balance in your social, environmental, and financial sustainability. So what we saw is that if you run a retreat, mostly you will get clients who are more focused on yoga and wellness.
Yeah.
And tourism in Sri Lanka was rising up. And then we thought that in Kandy, that would be very hard to, you know, to create that sort of a sustainable occupancy. So then we say, okay, let's go into the middle. And then what I said to the team and the marketing team and everything, so we are not going to be, we wanted to be inherently sustainable. Because I wanted to show the people that you can be sustainable without, like, let's say, rather than focusing much on the marketing, on the action. So we created a system that the food that we eat, so this is part of the social sustainability, is that I told my chefs and my team, what we make, what we eat, what we sell, what we eat. So we eliminated the staff food scheme. Right? So the staff is getting, so your social sort of impact is your staff is getting a really good meal. And then when you cook for yourself, you put your heart into your food.
Yes.
And we were selling every day, the whole idea was rice and curry for the night. And people were like eating it like crazy. And they were like asking, how the hell you are making? We were into a places that was much, much expensive, but your rice and curry is so amazing. And we had schemes that we would put for the tuk-tuk driver who brings the fruit for us and all the things for us. But we would say that if they didn't bring any polythene bags, we put 10 rupees more to his pay.
Reward them for no plastic.
Reward them. And then end of the day, if you are a business, if you are a younger entrepreneur, End of the day, bottom line is you have to make more money. That's kind of the way the business works, right? So what happened was that 10 rupee, you might think, okay, 10 rupees, right? You have a 500 rupee tuk-tuk fee, but 10 rupees in 30 days, bit of a thing. But what we found out, because we were so nice with the local community and everybody, the food seller made sure that they have the best papaya for us. And they even clean up the box for us, right? To give us. And so invariably, we created limitation of removing the polythene was a limitation, right? Removing that ease of use is being better. So we burn less garbage or we throw away less garbage. So less waste, even though we eliminated staff food, the quality of the food and the presentation and everything became very high. 10 rupees for the tuk-tuk driver was, technically, if you use polythene, you save that 10 rupees, right? It was like before the economical crisis. If you use the polythene, it was freely given. But we created a much better trust and a sort of a link with the tuk-tuk driver, the shops and everything. In return, they were giving us much better food, much better things, supplies. So in your product wise, your product becomes much better and you were getting much bigger, better 5-star reviews back then. And your business becomes even more thriving. So if you see, for me, to any young entrepreneur or anybody who's saying, being sustainable is not a limitation. If you be sustainable, if you be green, if you be ethical, if you pay your staff well, if you treat your staff better, it's actually, end of the day, you will end up earning more money.
Yes.
You'll end up being more happier as an entrepreneur, happier as a human being, fulfilling, and you will be more successful. So there's a bit of an ethos that, let's say, if you wanted to be green, that means that's a compromise. You want to create something, because that mentality needs to go away. That's one of the biggest mentalities that stops. So like, let's say polythene usage, right? It's very easy for us to go to a shop and get 10 polythene bags. And then soon as somebody would say, don't use polythenes, then the main question is that the people will say, okay, if I don't use the polythene, it's so much hassle for me. That's a limitation factor for me. But if you integrated that into your work, so I'll give you a sort of example that I was involved in. So we were running a retreat business in Kandy, in Italy, right?
Yeah.
Rice and curry, our food, especially we use lots of coconut milk. That's our identity.
Yes.
And a foreigner would come to Sri Lanka, traveler would come. That would be probably the once in lifetime opportunity. So that person would never eaten proper rice and curry.
Yes.
So we are in the experience-based tourism, right?
Yes.
Give them a rice and curry, and they'll get wowed. There would be some guests who would be with different food preference, will not like it, but make them a rice and curry. So you, in a cost-wise, you also makes it. Experience-wise, you also make it. And there's so many local varieties of vegetables. So like Sri Lanka is blessed with, like right now the jackfruit season is starting, the mango season is starting, and then a mango curry is such a unique thing that you can offer. You can basically wow your guest. And as an operator, it gives you a limiter, so it gives you a sort of a advantage on cost, and you create amazing experience, because more memories you create, better your products becomes, and better the guest will recommend it. So what we had in the Knuckles was, I give you like how we reached Knuckles. So this group were coming on a big coaches, and for the Knuckles you can't take the coach, so we had to hire jeeps 4x4 jeeps from Waskamu National Park to take them like 30 kilometers up and then do a village tour and then another 30 kilometers down to the bus. So in an economical sense, that doesn't really add up, right? This is super costly.
Yeah.
Take a whole day to do this 3-4 hour activity. And what happened was we had like some of the guys in Colombo running the operation were like, Aravinda, we are spending a whole day and we are not even making a lot of money. But what they're saying that the guests who come to that experience were like, wow, we did something authentic. And then that became the highlight of that whole sort of a 21 day trip. I always say, use what we have. Do not follow what others are doing. Instead of you do in a way that others could follow you.
Yes. And if I can add something here, if you go to, let's say, Europe or somewhere, right? Mainly in Europe. Let's talk about Italy. When you go to Italy, you have to eat the pizza, pasta, and everything nice. Of course, they have to offer. And you have to go to some major city to find a Sri Lankan or proper Indian restaurant, right?
Yes.
You have it available, but not very easily, right? They are so proud of their cuisine, even though compared to Sri Lankan cuisine, it's very simple, but still they are very proud. They will have it every day almost. And yes, the Europeans mainly have this ego about their food culture is the best kind of thought, which Sri Lankan don't have. Unfortunately, I wish we had it, but oh, yes, I can speak of Italians because my in-laws are from there, and they have this thought like, even if I go anywhere else, I want pizza or pasta, I want to try that. So if we can in tourism break that ego and somehow make them taste our food, trust me, anyone who experienced Sri Lankan food, have had it, falls in love with it, really, in my experience. Because
let me add it in a way that Sri Lankan food is very much sort of synergized with Ayurveda, right?
Yes.
So yes, we do not have our pizza and the pasta, but our rice and curry is super nutrition. It balances your doshas.
Still very organic.
Very organic. I mean, it's very easy to be a vegetarian or a vegan in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Because if you look at most of the diet is like that. It's rich, super rich food. It's experience itself, right? The food that we have. So I think we should be even more prouder, and I'm also amazed at why our food is not global anymore.
Oh, this is a big topic I always talk about. I don't know, it's because like one of my guests said, it's because when we are not taking the food outside because our diaspora is very small in numbers compared to big countries like China or India. This I understand. And the economic factor, I mean, our diaspora, especially in the Middle East or Europe, are not so well off that they can start a restaurant. Also, it's very difficult to start a business in Europe. That's another story. But within Sri Lanka, at least, guys, we can do this. We can somehow make the guest experience our food. Trust me, they will fall in love and they will ask for more. And one thing about what you said, our ingredients, Aravinda. We just don't throw in things just because, our processes are so long, the preparation processes, and which also I think that our mothers really pour love into it because it's time consuming. As a mother, I can say that every step of the way I'm thinking this should be tasty and nutritious for my son. It's really a special way of preparing the food. And like you said, yes, it associates with Ayurveda or our indigenous medicinal system. Like, for example, if I love to cook, and I always follow the methods, because if I'm making dal parippu with coconut milk, right, I am for surely adding some ingredients like fenugreek seeds and garlic and all that to eliminate the gas
Yes.
from dal, which is very famously known that dal gives you gas, right? The
Yes.
lentils gives you gas. So to
Yeah.
eliminate that, we add garlic and fenugreek and many other ingredients in that. So like this, it's all connected. There are reasons for what we are throwing in. you know
Yes. Yeah, I
for
mean,
people
it's
from Western countries, yes, it's looked as like so many ingredients, so many steps. That's the beauty of our cuisine, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's a like I always say this sort of experience based, like like in tourism we tell a lot of stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you can have a dal, let's say you have a Sri Lankan curry with let's say some sambal, some nice jackfruits, uh, some nice rice. Like there's each curry has a story that you can sell. Each
Mm.
curry you can say that this has this ingredient, these type of antioxidants we use. Like, I mean, let's say tuna pahau, the curry powder that we make. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a cocktail of Ayurvedic goodness you are
Yes.
taking. And when you have a gotukala sambal, I mean, the amount of nutrition these things has is
Yes.
next level.
Next
And
level.
and what I always think, so like you were talking about this word proudness, right? So
Mm.
let's say we cannot market our food, let's say, as pizza or pasta. Okay,
Mm.
maybe it's not refined as that sort of a
Yeah.
marketable acid, but
Mm.
what we can be proud of the ingredients, we can be proud of the health benefits, we can proud of the idea of that this is, as you said, this is generations of thousands of years of trial and error, right? And these all these people who were building these great lakes, the stupas, was
Mm.
eating this same kind of food. And
Yes.
we should be, if you look at the most clients who comes to Sri Lanka,
Mm.
they always check where there's most greener places are.
Yeah, that's the
So
future.
it is
That's what
all,
the tourists are looking for now, isn't it?
yes. Yeah, so that's also amazing marketing because you can have lots of social media and everything, but in tourism, word of mouth, having an amazing five-star review,
Yeah.
it's the marketing. Let me add it like this. You can have a five-star review, but you
Mm.
can have a whole paragraph written by your guest about how amazing you guys are.
Mm.
So that paragraph, that review itself, worth hundreds of thousands of rupees in future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I see sustainability as a opportunity and
Mm.
way for you to be very successful.
Mm, 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 mm.
That's my
And there
take.
are opportunities that we think very light of, Everything can be an opportunity. This is what, unfortunately, Sri Lankans are not getting. I mean, we can show off our each village has its customs, its own touch of how we do things. Each corner of Sri Lanka has a different culture, different language, different religion, and the food culture, the dressing culture, and so much.
Yes.
So if we can bring some attention to this locally, I think you can elaborate more than me in this case.
Yeah. So let me put my sort of a business consultant hat and the tourist
Mm-hmm.
hat. So uh, we were doing a project in this was back in 2015, part of my
Mm.
sort of a uni thesis. So we were asked to design a hiking adventure in the Ruckles mountain range. So one of my
Mm.
friends, Dilip, was a national guide, and then we went through. And then we got everything set up.
Mm.
Uh, Back then, the food costs were not that much.
Yeah,
So this
cheaper
is
than now.
pre-economical crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we were about to get it. And then the notion was that if you have foreigners, you need to give them the foreign stuff to eat.
Yeah.
Like all these, what you said, like a Western food. We had,
Mm.
and then we thought, okay, so that would not be ethical. That was not going to be authentic,
Mm.
right? And uh, I still remember the argument that we had with the villagers. What we want is to give them the food that you guys eat. So, and then the villagers, because we are very hospitable culture, right? So we wanted to give much as possible. And then they were like, Mahatya, if we don't give carrots and all these Western, what we are eating is these leaves from the village and these things. It's like a very simple things. And I said, no, you
I
give them
wish
what you
they
guys could.
understand the value of real organic materials like this we have, food especially.
And then, the best hit on that to hiking tour was a papaya curry.
Raw papaya curry.
And these guests who came from Europe and everything, and they were eating the papaya curry like crazy, and they were like going for it, like, and they were like asking, "What is this? We never eaten a vegetable like this." So, and that's the experience back, right? And also, if you use local ingredients, so in Italy, you can still have a pizzeria in Sri Lanka. But that would not be the same pizzeria quality in what you find in Naples or something. Like presenting a Sri Lankan meal to a guest is presenting our culture and heritage, presenting our part of our life, and that we should be proud of. And we were talking about this all being authentic, right? For me, Sri Lankan food is a very authentic and a fulfilling meal.
Nutritious,
and we should be grateful that we are giving. And one thing that if you look at, I mean, you might know, like, lots of feedbacks, right? Like we have amazing wildlife, we have amazing beaches, amazing places to visit. But if you ask lots of travelers what you were most amazed by Sri Lanka, the two things will always come up. It's the food and the hospitality of the people.
Yes.
And then they will say we had amazing time in the beaches or amazing time in seeing the mountains. So I think that's one of the biggest USPs that we should build on.
Yes. And when it comes to food alone, Aravinda, one more thing I'd like to add. We can cook one vegetable in so many different ways. This we have to really show off. And the other thing is, my husband always asks me, what do you guys don't eat? Anything that grows, you eat, which I think is a huge blessing Sri Lankans have, or any tropical country has. We have so many edible plants. Whenever I see the milk powder prices have gone up, everybody start crying on the comments. I'm like, guys, this was an experiment. Even the Europeans or whoever made this concept of milk powder don't consume it. They consume fresh milk if they have to. So why are you so addicted to this? Why aren't you looking, like you said, go to cola? The calcium and the iron go to cola has. Just only let's talk about these two components. And all the other kira, the leafy greens we have widely available, grows anywhere. Why aren't we not bringing attention to these kind of ingredients? If the people, the tourists, know what they're consuming, the health benefits of every ingredients, or every available greens alone, or the grains we have, they will really start appreciating. So I think Sri Lankans should start appreciating first and then present it properly. It's also about presenting, no, Aravinda, like we don't talk about many things. Don't you agree? We don't market it properly.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say, like, in sort of a Western world, you have this whole idea of you have your NutriBullet, and then you put some greens, and then creates this amazing
smoothies,
drink, smoothies. But that's colacanda, right?
Exactly. With red rice.
I mean, yes, that is 20 times, 100 times more nutritious and tastier.
Gluten-free. Yes.
I think so. Yes, we do have this sort of the narrative of marketing and narrative of all these things are for us is unfortunately derives from sort of a Western sort of a narrative, right? So that's one of the things that we always struggle, as lots of developing countries like us struggle, that we wanted to be more closer to a Western world to attract Western clientele. But being
they like
talking
us, what
about
we do.
this, yes, talking about this, I think if you wanted to be like tourism is growing in like heaps of bounds. I mean, touch wood, we will attract around 3 million tour travelers this year. Let's say Kolakanda. I think there's a huge opportunity for an entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, to create a
Yes.
brand out of it. Uh,
Yes.
uh, you need to I mean, you don't even need to refine it because now in a day, people are all, so like with the smartphones and everything, the people really know about, like finding like real good, authentic, like what real nutritious food is. I think there's a huge, I mean, when there is, as you said, every sort of a dark cloud has a silver lining. I think there's so much like with, we are talking about tourism, but with the food industry in Sri Lanka, I think there's a huge
Alone.
opportunity. I think there is
Very big
huge
opportunity.
opportunity to create a, let's say, franchise-based Sri Lankan food restaurants all around Sri Lanka to bring it globally. I think it's if somebody is very innovative and creative with listening to this podcast, believe me, this would be the golden opportunity to create something out of Sri Lankan food, which I think, as you said, like most of our food is gluten-free, uh, vegan by design,
Yes.
right? That's another thing. So like lots of people are becoming very conscious about veganism, vegetarianism, not using GMO products, not using artificial ingredients. But if you look at a proper Sri Lankan food,
Yeah.
it's designed to be like that. So like in a
Yes.
Western dish, you need to remove something and add something to make it vegan or add something to make
Yes.
it not have that the same taste. But if you have a
Originally vegan.
the original dal, original jackfruit curry is with coconut oil, with the
Yes.
coconut milk, uh, and
And we
that's
can
the thing.
confidently say that our food is much healthier than the famous Indian food because they use a lot of ghee, they use a lot of butter, sugar. But not many people know about our kitul, that
Yes,
we use coconut milk in every dish, and coconut oil in our sweets. Usually, our most of our sweets are gluten free, like mung
yes.
bean flour, rice flour, millet flour, and I can go on. Yeah. So I think it's about marketing, branding. Neither, like you said, kolakanda. Yes, the podridge we have with greeny
Yes.
leaves. How does the tourist know that this is so nutritious? We should just put a sign, guys, or some printed paper to explain in English what is in it and how it's beneficial for health and all that, right?
The amount of culinary tourism that we can attract to Sri Lanka, the sustainable tourism, we could be uh, one of the global leaders of sustainable tourism. I mean, the crazy thing is to do that, you don't need to do huge amount of things, right? You don't need to
Yes.
reinvent. Like if you wanted to do a sustainable tourism project in sort of a European country because of the sort of consumer culture, you need to reinvent a lot of things. You can take some people from some guests from the airport and take them to the mountains, take them to a village, and then show them around. And then you already see that these people are living super sustainably,
Yeah.
super like another thing that we are talking about is sort of a religious harmony, the co-living between, like we were talking about the Muslim culture. So like I still remember, like uh, when we go to my friends' places, because I'm from Matle, we have a Muslim and a Hindu community, how integrated we are, culturally, religiously. So, I mean, that opportunity alone, and the beauty that I always say that it's already inherently in our society.
Yes.
And when we're doing these knuckles sort of a tours, if I say that I designed a sustainable tour package, yes, in a sense, yes, but I never really designed much. I just utilized
maybe from
what
the
always,
marketing perspective, you
yeah,
put
I
it
could say that,
into,
but it was already sustainable.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
you go to the Jaffna, the hospitality of the people, the culture of the people, the smell of the colors of the people is
Mm,
next level. I mean,
mm, mm,
my
mm, mm.
God, like I always get, I mean, this is true, right? Like being in this industry, and then sometimes people are coming to me and then telling how great Sri Lanka is. Because, I you might also get this sort of experience. And then I was like, sometimes I think by myself, like, is these people has not traveled in any other country before? Or like, are these people are lying to me? And then like asking them, they've been around the world, and then they come to this small island, and then they're like amazed by the cuisine, amazed by the people, amazed by the
Mm,
environment. I
mm.
mean,
Aravinda, they have been to other parts of the world, but it all looks the same. But
yes.
we are unique.
Yeah, I think that uniqueness that we should not, because I always say that I feel like if you go to a five-star resort,
Mm,
wherever part of the world, it feels like a resort,
yeah.
right? But if you walk around with the people in a tuk-tuk, uh, uh, and taking a bike tour around the country. I mean, these tuk-tuk tours are becoming a huge in Sri Lanka, right? These
Mm,
days, there's lots of foreigners driving their own tuk-tuk around.
mm, mm,
Uh, it is fascinating. I think I'm very humble. I mean, truly humble, even to like I don't even have words to say, like how proud I am in that sense.
mm,
And for me, to see that amount of opportunities, and then if somebody, and I'm pretty sure our younger generations, especially with the one thing that I have to say, that we were talking about how great our food is, right?
mm,
And also, to have great food, you need to have great people to cook it. So I'll give
yeah.
you an example. Like I was tasked to do a coffee shop, and I
Mm,
had no idea about coffee. And then
mm,
we were like in a sort of a remote place in Sri Lanka in the south coast, and not many coffee places were there. And we
mm,
had like this old coffee machine, and the grinder, you have to like sometimes hit the grinder, shake it to
mm.
work. And I got a guy walking to my place and say that we wanted to start some coffee. And then he said,
Mm,
okay, I can make coffee. And within 3 months, we were getting so much people.
mm,
I mean, this is, I have to say, okay, I'm a tea drinker. I come from the sort of a central Sri Lanka. Coming into South, I'm not a big coffee person, right? And for me, it I was drinking coffee from him from our place, and I couldn't really like there's no way for me to compare and say this is a great coffee or not. And then
mm,
lots of people from every part of the country was coming, the world is coming, sorry. And then we were amazed, and then I was like, how is this possible? Like I have a younger guy who's not does not have the huge experience. I know this is a very scientific, like there's a lot of culture behind it. And then the beans that we get is actually Sri Lankan beans.
mm,
This is a company around in the south that they're doing their own roast.
mm,
Uh, and then the people are coming and asking. I mean, that's for me the talent of the younger generation,
mm,
right? He was super magic. He learned it. No, he was doing your YouTube videos. I still remember the first day, and this is true story. We had everything set up, and then the first client asks for a was not a cappuccino, something else he was asking,
mhm,
right? A flat white, sorry.
mhm.
And we were like looking at each other. How the hell are we going to make this thing now? I still remember I was Googling and then I was like, I think how to make the flat white. And he learned it like that. And then we were like, okay, now we gave this flat white to the guest, and neither of us were like, this is a kid who was looking at a coffee machine and they were really liked it. And then it's just to see that talent that Sri Lankan young, especially younger generation has. I mean, this untapped raw talent.
Yeah.
Like I think these surfers were doing it, these cafes were doing it. I think one thing that we always, I think like I'm kind of like very not happy about sometimes is that we need to have a much better ladder for these talents to get discovered and to create like, so instead of they are becoming these workers who are like coffee guys, we need to make them the next. So we want to make them like
Baristas.
we were baristas, and also like we were such a blessed country, right? So like some crazy weird way, we have this amazing soil and amazing climate that everything
And
grows in Sri
amazing
Lanka
talents, skillful people.
becomes like the coffee in Sri Lanka. I know because we were a coffee country and then we became tea. And the blends that we can do in Sri Lanka, we just talked about Sri Lankan food, but the coffee blends that we can do in Sri Lanka is next level. And then the infusions are like, let's say we want to make, you have a country that probably has one of the best coffees and teas in the world.
And
then you have
herbs.
the best herbs in the world. And then the blends that you could make, the opportunities is
endless.
In a way, endless. So I always say that we are so gifted. Maybe that's why we are so complacent.
Yeah, we taken it for granted.
Yeah.
Aravinda,
Yes.
talking about coffee, this could be a business idea for someone. I mean, you don't have to, guys, you don't have to have a shop and invest so much. You can start with your tuk-tuk as a cart or some flasks, in a tourist area, of course. See, when I became vegan, the most thing I missed was my kiri kopi and kirite, the coffee with milk and tea with milk. So what I did, cashew milk, rice milk, almond milk. Okay, it's not a thing in Sri Lanka, but cashew milk, rice milk, you can do something. Soy milk, and coconut milk, of course, very creamy. I used to experiment with coffee with coconut milk and sometimes cardamom and kitulpeni, and sometimes with only cinnamon. And that's a favorite coffee amongst my friends now. The cinnamon coffee I make. Okay, just throw in the cinnamon piece while the coffee is boiling. Yeah, and then with ginger like we traditionally have, and so on. Imagine the blends we can make, and we don't necessarily need to have an Italian expensive coffee machine to make coffee. The thing we do traditionally, like beating it with a spoon. I really miss that sound in the morning waking up to, so you can do it, make it foam, the milk, creamy coconut milk or creamy cashew milk. You can actually do it. You don't need a expensive coffee machine. And the other thing about tuk-tuk is, let's say a young guy has a tuk-tuk, which I really discourage young people going into just being a tuk-tuk driver and rest of the day they're just home. But if you are one of them, what you can do is you can make a plan in your village, in your community. Okay, you come in my tuk-tuk, but just design it, print it properly, or maybe you can even draw and laminate it, keep it in your tuk-tuk and show, okay, I pick you from here, we go to this local temple, and then I take you to this Amma's place. She's like an old cook and her daughters are learning how to cook from her. It can be a Muslim cuisine, it can be a Jaffna cuisine, it can be a Sinhalese Canadian cuisine or the Southern cuisine, And then we go to this place, we see this lake, this waterfall, or even in the city. I mean, imagine doing it properly.
Yes. I think, let me say it like this. So, it's about finding sort of a unique sort of a USP, right? So rather than doing just a tuk-tuk tour, do it in an authentic way, in a sustainable way. It's all back to that sort of a sustainable, sort of authentic topic that we were talking about.
Yes.
That you create much better opportunities and much better clients. And one thing that I also say that, like with that sort of a young guy with the coffee that I was talking about, like, there's a sort of, they say there's a fifth element in food, right? But I always say that what Sri Lankans always put their heart into what they're doing, right? So you can be a tuk-tuk driver, you can be a bike rider, you can be a food maker. If you put your heart into what you make, that becomes even better. And
secret ingredient.
Secret ingredients. And then, so like the coconut milk, the coconut milks, I'm not a vegan, but I really enjoy this sort of a coconut milk cappuccino. And also like, I stopped using this supermarket stuff. Make your own coconut, grate your own coconut, and get the milk out of it, and then make that coconut milk.
Yeah.
And it's next level.
And that could be an industry too. Like before, we were talking about it's not, let's say, sustainable to bring down cheese from Italy. And especially when it comes to vegan customers, why don't you make your own cheese with soy milk? Soy grows in Sri Lanka. Why don't we make it with coconut milk? This could be an industry for someone,
Yeah, so like, let's say it like this, right? So I have a coffee shop and I wanted to make coconut milk coffee. So easy option, the famous option is to go to the supermarket and buy some supermarket stuff, right? The offering that you give will be very bland. It's okay, but it's an industrial process offering that you give, right?
Yeah, the taste you cannot control.
Yeah, it's very blendy taste, right? It's not bad, but it's not good either. But the same time, you decide, okay, I'm going to have a coffee. I'm going to go to a local roaster, talk with the local roaster, get a blend that it is good for me. And it'll spend 1 more hour scraping the coconut, making my own coconut milk. You could put a little bit of cinnamon into it, a little bit of spice into the coconut, make it even much better, nicer. And because of that, you're not going for that mass market stuff. Your product is also limited, right? With the supermarket, mass market stuff, you can make 500 coffees. With the authentic, organic sort of a making, you make, let's say, 350 coffees, right? So then already a lot of people get discouraged just by this, right? There's too much work, too much risk involved. But if you do it in a way, one traveler who'd come and enjoy this sort of a tasteful, soulful coffee that you make, right? You pass your fifth ingredient, your energy, the story, right? That person will be like, wow. So I always tell to, you can be my clients or people that I'm working with, is the best way is not to satisfy your client. I always say to wow your client.
And bring them
You
back.
want your client to say, when you drink a coffee and then you meet another guest in the beach, and then you have to make it in a way that that person will like say, like, oh, I had the best coconut cappuccino in my life
Here.
Go to that place. And then you create your own what you call brand, your customer base, and you will outperform financially than sort of go into that sort of a mass market appeal. So I think if you see this whole sustainability, being ethical, being vegan, being vegetarianism as an opportunity, I think you are not just creating a successful business, you have the whole world opening up to you. Because the whole world is also moving into this sort of a sustainable, ethical, more
You're touching a
conscious.
demand.
Yes, because I don't think there would not be many more fast food restaurants. I don't think there's much huge demand for that. Most people are moving away from it. But I think in this podcast itself, we were given like so many
And
amazing
we could go on, but
franchise
yes.
ideas, like they would. So let's say you were talking about like branding and integrating Sri Lankan food, right? I know a lot of places here that they use hoppers in a very creative way. So once I end up eating, it's a very, I was like, what's this? I end up eating a shakshuka hopper. So it's just like a whole two cultures
Yeah,
getting
fusion.
integrated, right? Fusion. So that's there. And I give you a really good example of us not capitalizing on the marketing aspect. So this is New Year. We were going on a sort of a thing, and then one of the villagers was offered a mung bean kiribat to the one of the guests. And she was lecturing me how nutritious this was.
The tourist.
Yeah, it was telling me, oh, Aravinda, this is so nutritious. This is like, like, so I think lots of people are now integrating it. One thing that we should do, I think, I mean, the first of all, I've seen it in the ground level, it's organically happening. The one thing that we have to do is like select the tourism leaders. Like, I wanted to see more Sri Lankan food in the five-star restaurants. I wanted to see, so like in the uni that we always say that Sri Lankan, if you go to a uni, we always say that in my lectures, always say that when they go out, there is the continental breakfast, there's the Western, all the sausages and the breads and the French section. And then you have the Sri Lankan corner. In a small corner, you have few rice and curries.
Your
This
own
should be
food.
the other way around, guys.
Yes.
And I think I give you a good example. Have you been to Ella recently when you're in?
Yes.
I mean, Ella is hyping up, right?
Yeah.
And in Ella, you have all these Western, super nice places, right? Some of them does have some Sri Lankan flair to it. And next to Ella, and then I saw this like a little hut, like it's a shanty little with the corrugated steel. And then I was like, believe me, like 20 guests were like lining up there. And my cousin has a restaurant next door, which has like all the ratings and everything. And then I was like going there. And then after the food, there's some more tourists over there. And I was like, what is this happening here? And there was like, is this somebody have a problem there? Or and then I realized that's the only authentic rice and curry place in
in the
that
area.
area. And you have places that have millions of rupees of investment. They have the best chefs in the world going there. And then you have the mama ladies making some nice food. And then people are lining up. LA is in the night is cold also.
Yes.
So I think the marketing and the opportunities are so well. And then the whole idea of integrating Sri Lankan food dinner. And one other thing that we have to say, like, because Indian food tend to season and cooked, and then we tend to season while we are cooking. And that's another
Yes.
notion is that, yes, Sri Lankan food is not fast as Western food, but it's not slow as Indian food. It is much faster also. Like if you look at a dal curry, you could make a nice dal with half an hour.
Yeah. Or
And
less than that. If you throw in
less than
everything at the
that.
same
So
time.
yeah, we throw in it, but there's a sort of a succession that we throw, right? You put the seeds and they're not a big cook, but that's something that we should do. And I think the opportunity is, as we said, it's humongous. And I wish, and also somebody, somebody wants to do that, that's there. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the person who got the 10 million subscriber first YouTuber in Sri Lanka was putting Sri Lankan food videos.
Aravinda, I want to also add something. Like you said, the 5-star hotels have our own food in a corner. See,
Yes.
There is one more opportunity that we don't see, is that if you talk about only about Sri Lankan food, we can throw in a variety from Jaffna, from Kendi, from down south, from Malay food in Sri Lanka, from Muslim cuisine in Sri Lanka, and so on. Food is so different in every corner in Sri Lanka. For example, the raw mango curry we cook, the Sinhalese people cook it with black pepper. And the Muslim community, I come from a Muslim community, and we cook it with coconut milk. And it's yellow in color with a little bit of a sweetness into it, But the Sinhalese way of cooking it, like kalupol malu, with black pepper, right? So every vegetable, each community or each religious community in Sri Lanka or geographical community in Sri Lanka cooks in a different way. So imagine we put them all together and offer them, you want to try this? You want to try this? Imagine the opportunity within this.
Yeah, I mean, culinary tourism, right? I mean, if you ask me, if I what would be the next top reason that I wanted to travel to Jaffna again, I would say the food.
Yeah.
The food in
I
Jaffna
cannot wait
is
to go.
next level. And it's the idea of culinary tourism, right? I mean, that's, so the ancient sort of Romans, Greeks were saying that Sri Lanka is sort of a Taprobona, the land within the land. The Marco Polo is saying this is the smallest island, the greatest smallest island as its size. I mean, what Sri Lanka is, it's such a small island, jam-packed with so much opportunities, right?
Yes.
So unfortunately, like we are talking about the Trump tariff and everything, but let's say...
Stay tuned for part 2 where we talk about women's role in tourism.